Hello, and welcome to the Empowerography Podcast. This is a platform created for women's voices to be heard and a place to share their stories, journeys, and successes with the world for the purpose of helping other women who might be on similar journeys. We are empowering women one episode at a time. I'm your host, Brad Walsh, so kick back, grab one of your favorite beverages, and enjoy the stories. What if I told you the only thing standing between you and your next big opportunity is your voice? This isn't just another program. Empower Your Message is your ticket to becoming the podcast guest everyone wants. You'll learn how to craft a pitch that gets a hell yes, show up with unshakable confidence, and drop truth bombs that leave hosts and audiences wanting more. No more playing small. No more waiting for permission. It's your time to be heard. Loud, clear, and unforgettable. Visit the link in the show notes to sign up, and let's make your voice impossible to ignore. The mic is waiting. Are you ready? Hello there, Brad Walsh here, your host of the Empowerography Podcast, a platform that was created to help elevate and amplify the voices of women through sharing their stories. Today, my guest is Kelci Jager. She is a certified life coach, a grief and loss coach, a registered nurse, an author, and the founder of Rise with Grief. Welcome, Kelci. How you doing today?
I'm good, Brad. I'm excited to be here with you.
I am so excited to have you here and honored to have you here. Thank you so much for taking and making the time to be here with me today. I'm so excited to have you here. So with that being said, let us jump right in and get started. Now, your journey into this work wasn't random. It was born out of something deeply personal for you. Can you share the moment that shifted your grief into the calling to help others?
Yes, there was one specific night that changed everything for me. And that was 5 years ago. I have 4 sons. My 2 oldest sons were in a terrible accident on a stormy night, and they were rushed to the hospital, one with traumatic injuries to his body, the other with a head injury. And as a mom, I was in shock, of course, and I was terrified, and I was just trying to hold it together. And then in the middle of the chaos of the ER, we discovered that our oldest son had a brain tumor. And that night, my world cracked wide open. The boys went through surgeries, and thankfully the brain tumor was benign, but the recovery for both kids was really rough. And they're both fully recovered today, and both of them are happy and healthy and thriving.
Excellent.
But fast forward to the night of my kid's accident 4 months ago, my kid's accident, and then fast forward 4 months,
Right.
my husband, Colin, who had always been really healthy, suddenly wasn't feeling well, and he ends up in the emergency room, gets admitted to the hospital. Then he was diagnosed with an aggressive type of leukemia, and the next 18 months were torture, and he suffered through treatment and side effects for, like I said, 18 months. And then he died in July of 2022. And at that moment, my entire universe imploded. And so for me, grief wasn't just one event. It was a wave after wave. And sitting in those moments, I realized that grief wasn't something I was ever going to get over. But I also knew I couldn't let it consume me or my boys. And I had to learn how to rise with it and how to keep moving forward while carrying it.
That is a hell of a lot to deal with, all in such a short span of time. First of all, your kids. How old were the boys when the accident happened?
They were 13 and 15.
Oh my gosh. And then to get that horrible news 4 months later of I can't even begin to imagine it. Other than debilitating, it's so much to process and deal with. After still, obviously, it was only 4 months after your sons. So still worried about and dealing with your boys, and then your husband on top of that. I can't even imagine, Kelci. I honestly cannot even imagine.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine either. And when I was going through it, I was like, how is this my life? It seemed like it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
That I desperately wanted to wake up from, but obviously I wasn't waking up from it because it was my reality.
So who did you have to lean on through all this?
That's a good question. My husband was the person that I leaned on when my kids had their accident.
Mhm.
And so that I didn't have that when he
Yeah.
got sick. He was fighting for his life. And so I really spiraled in the beginning because I didn't have him, and I just was like, I was just getting tossed around in a hurricane, and I was barely catching my breath. But I learned how to allow other people to help me, even though it was extremely uncomfortable. And of course, everyone says, I don't want to be a burden. And I didn't want to be a burden. I actually said to one of my friends, I don't want to be the neighborhood service project. But I didn't have a choice. It was literally survival. So I had to let people help me. I learned to lean on my faith and God. And that's really what got me through.
Wow. Now, we all know that grief is a universal human experience. It's often treated as something to be hidden or rushed through or just pushed aside. Can you take us back to that moment of loss and share what grief taught you about yourself that you didn't know before?
Grief has taught me many things, but I have learned that I am so much stronger than I ever wanted to be. And I've learned that strength isn't about holding it all together or pretending you're fine and putting on a mask and pretending like everything's okay when it's not. But it's about allowing yourself to fall apart and fully feel the expansiveness of all the emotions that you're experiencing, and then taking one step forward anyway, even when everything in you is screaming to not do that because you're so afraid of making a move that it's going to be the wrong move or what's going to happen in the future. I also learned that grief is not linear, and it's not something you fix. It's not something you get over. And for me, grief really has become a teacher, and it's showed me that I can carry deep pain and still create moments of joy, and that I can honor my husband that I lost, and I can keep building a life that I love, even if it looks different than what I wanted. But most of all, grief has taught me compassion, first for myself, because I had to stop fighting my own heart, but then also for others, because I realized everyone is carrying something that we can't see. And grief has taught me that it wasn't here to break me. My grief is very sacred to me, and I have allowed it to transform me.
You were going through and dealing with the grief of losing your husband, but also you had to be there for those 4 boys who were grieving in their own ways too. Each of them, because we all grieve differently. Every single person grieves
Mhm,
differently. So you had to
mhm.
be there not only for yourself, but for your 4 boys too. And they always tell us you have to look after yourself. Self-care is not selfish and all these things. So you
Yeah.
had to put yourself first to let yourself go through the grief and deal with it. But at the same time, you also had to be a mom and a support system for your 4 kids too.
Yes.
That is a
Yes.
hell of you're being pulled and stretched in so many different directions.
Yes. It was crazy. It was crazy to being a solo mom is hard, but being a solo mom while you're grieving and have grieving kids is like next level. I don't want to say impossible because it's not impossible. Obviously, I'm living proof of that.
Yeah.
But it was, yeah, it's not for the faint of heart.
No,
That was,
I'm sure there were days where you just wanted to lay in bed and curl up and just be and just
yeah.
deal with the grief on your own. But unfortunately, you had to be there and support not unfortunately, fortunately, you were there to support your
Yes.
boys. But
Correct. Fortunately,
yeah,
yeah. I say that my boys saved me, because when my husband died, I wasn't suicidal. I was never going to hurt myself, but I didn't want to live.
yeah,
I wanted to be with him. If you had told me like tomorrow you're going to die, I would have been like, yes, because
yeah.
I wanted to be with him. I didn't want to be on this earth without him. That was very scary and very painful. And I just wanted the pain to go away. But more than that, I wanted to be here for my children. So in the beginning, everything I did was for them. It wasn't for me. But
Yeah.
eventually there was a shift where I began to do it for myself as well. And so that's why I say my boys saved me, but I did have extra challenges because I had grieving children while I was grieving myself.
It's a very delicate balance and very fine line to walk, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
What has grief revealed to you about love, connection, and the human heart that joy or success never could?
Grief gives you a perspective like nothing else can. It strips away everything that isn't essential and it lays bare what truly matters. And it showed me that my heart could break wide open and still keep beating. That I could hold, there's a duality in grief, that I could hold unimaginable pain. And at the same time, I could still feel gratitude. I could still appreciate beauty. I could still even feel joy, that I could fall apart and I could still rise up, is what the perspective that grief gave me that I couldn't get anywhere else.
Yeah, there must have been moments where I can't. How am I going to get through this? And
Mhm.
your heart, as you said, has been broken wide open. How is it
Mhm.
ever going to heal? And all of these things that come up. But again, you had your boys there, which was a blessing and a gift too.
Yeah. And I also discovered in the middle of the breaking that my relationship with my husband continues after death. He's integrated into every part of my being. Everything I do, his influence will be with me forever. And I'm not suggesting that's as good as him being physically here, because it's not.
No.
But I feel him close by me all the time.
Which is a huge comfort, I would imagine.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's such a gift.
Grief feels like a thief, or can often feel like a thief, but it can also be a teacher, as you've shared. What else has grief taught you that you now consider a gift?
It steals the life you have. It steals your hopes and your dreams. It steals the people you love. It takes away that certainty, that security that you rely on. But if you let it, grief can be a catalyst to growth. And like I said, it gives you a new perspective on life. I don't take things for granted anymore. I cherish the small things that maybe I wouldn't have noticed before. And because of that, my life is so much richer. I just feel so much more gratitude for things that I wouldn't even notice before. And so my world is so much lighter, which is weird because on the other hand, it's so much heavier because it's just harder. It's just harder not having him here and dealing with the despair and pain of that. But it's taught me to focus on what I can control and let go of what I can't, which therefore makes it lighter. I've learned to stop sweating the small stuff that don't matter. I pour energy into things that truly matter. And at the end of the day, I find goodness and joy in the messy, in the painful, in the unpredictable, because I have to in order to be able to thrive and I have to be intentional in finding moments of joy, because when my husband died, my default was to be miserable.
Those are some hard lessons to learn, and it's a hard way to learn those lessons through grief, but it's a beautiful teacher in a way, because some people don't ever learn those lessons about letting go and about not sweating the small stuff and about control and all of these things. Some people never learn those lessons.
And not everybody in grief learns those lessons either.
Very true.
The potential is there.
Yeah.
But you have to uncover it. You have to do the work to uncover it. You have to find it. It doesn't just happen by default.
Yeah. Yeah. People don't want to do the work, period, whether they're grieving or not, or in grief. A lot of people don't want to do the work and don't realize that there is work to do. We always have to.
Because it's hard and it hurts.
Yes, of course it does.
Yeah.
You have to look within.
It makes sense. Yeah. But for me, I'm like, choose your hard. Either way, it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
So am I going to be miserable and it be hard, or am I going to rise up and it be hard. I choose the second.
I would too. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. You're right. It's going to be hard either way. It doesn't matter. Any
Yeah,
way you
correct.
slice it. I love
Mhm.
that. It could also, grief can also feel isolating, but in reality, I think it's one of the few experiences that can bind us all together. So, how do you think grief has, in your opinion, how does grief have the power to connect us more deeply as human beings if we're willing to allow it and let it?
Grief is isolating because it's so personal. It's so raw.
Yeah.
And it's hard to share those pieces of you and be so vulnerable. But it's also one of the few experiences that reminds us we're human in the same way. When you face devastating loss, you understand fear, heartbreak, and vulnerability in a way that nothing else teaches you. And you can recognize it in other people. I can recognize pain in other people. And so for me, grief has the power to connect us deeply because it strips away pretenses
Mm.
and it strips away the facade, and it reminds us that everyone has a story. Everyone, for the most part, everyone is doing the best they can to keep going. And if we let it, grief can really open and unlock deep empathy in us. And it makes us more present. It makes us more compassionate, more honest with not only ourselves, but with others.
It exposes a hell of a lot, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And I think we learn a lot about who we can lean on, who's really there, like who our true support systems are, who our true friends are. When
Mhm.
things like that happen, when something that deeply personal happens, and we all have experienced grief in some way, shape, or form. Grief doesn't
Yes.
necessarily just mean death of a human
Correct.
being. It could be death of a relationship. It could be loss of a
Yes.
job. Oh, there's so many
Any
different
sort of
things.
loss.
Yeah. But I think it teaches us who we can rely on and who we can trust in as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy how you lose people
Mhm.
when you experience something devastating like this. You lose people that you thought would be there for you,
Mhm.
and they just disappear into the shadows. And you're
Yeah.
like, wait, where did you go?
Yeah.
And then there's other people that step up that really shock you.
Yeah.
Where did you come from? I didn't expect that you would be here for me, but you are in such the most amazing way. And so, yeah, it's very nuanced and interesting how that happens.
It is for sure. And those people that do come out of nowhere are such a beautiful gift. They are such a
Yes,
beautiful gift.
such like the most unexpected
Yeah.
gift that you
Yeah.
didn't know you even wanted.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What role has forgiveness of yourself, of life, maybe even of God played in your healing journey?
Forgiveness is a huge part of healing because if we I had to forgive myself for things I couldn't control. It was hard for me that I couldn't save my husband, Colin, that I couldn't protect my boys from the pain for all the ways that I thought I should have done more. If I didn't forgive myself for those things and I carried that weight, it would have kept me stuck. It would have kept me, it would have made me bitter. And I've also had to wrestle with forgiving life itself. Life didn't go the way I planned, and it felt very unfair and cruel. But if a person stays in that place of bitterness, it only hardens them. And I would forever remain a victim. And forgiveness doesn't mean that I like what happened. It means that I've stopped letting it define me. And then there's God. So you asked about God. That was complicated for a while. I had to be honest about my anger, my doubts, my questions. And I would yell at God and be like,
Mm.
I'm not talking to you because I'm so mad at you. But in choosing to forgive, I created space for trust to grow again. And basically, I deconstructed my faith and then I rebuilt it from there. And it looks different than before, but it's so much stronger
Yeah.
than it was. And it needs to be said that forgiveness doesn't it's not about excusing the pain.
Mhm.
It's about releasing what I couldn't carry anymore.
Yeah.
And when I released that, I found peace. And peace isn't the absence of pain, which a lot of people think that if you have
Mhm.
peace, you don't have pain, and it's not. Peace comes when you accept what is and you drop the resistance of your reality.
Was there a catalytic moment for you around forgiving God? Was there something that happened or something that just like a switch for you?
Yes, there actually was. So when Colin first was diagnosed, and I was just totally in a spiral, like just in a very dark place. I was mad at God. I was yelling at him. I know you can take this away. Why aren't you taking it away? Don't you love me? If you loved me, you would take it away. You wouldn't want me to be hurting. Obviously, you don't love me because you're not taking this away. And that was not helpful. That I was being honest. But if I stayed in that frame of mind, there was no hope. I was in complete, utter despair, and it scared me because I knew if I stayed in that place, I wasn't going to survive.
Mhm.
And so that moment, I was like, you've got to change your mindset. You have got to stop being bitter and just woe is me. Not that I didn't have moments of pity parties, because I did,
Of course.
but I couldn't unpack and stay there anymore. I had to look for the ways that God was showing up in my life. How was he there? Even if it wasn't what I was asking for, how was he there? So that was the moment that really shifted everything for me.
I want to applaud your self-awareness, first of all, because so many people would stay stuck there. And who knows, for some people never dig themselves out, and that's unfortunate. But it's that self-awareness piece that is so huge to realize, listen, I am the only one who can pull myself out of this and shift things. If I don't, what? And I think this also ties into the forgiveness pieces. If I don't do that, if I don't forgive, if I don't pull myself, yes, first and foremost, it affects me, of course. But secondarily, it affects everyone else around you.
Yes. Yeah.
And your
You hit the nail on the head.
too.
I couldn't be there for my husband the way that I wanted to be when I was in that dark place.
Yeah.
I couldn't function. I couldn't get out of bed. It was bad. It was so bad. And then, of course, on top of that, I just layered all kinds of shame and guilt because I wanted to be there for him so bad. He was in the hospital going through so much, and nothing more in me wanted to be there for him. And I couldn't. And on top of that, I couldn't be there for my kids. And my kids would walk into my bedroom and just look at me like with just straight fear in their eyes.
Yeah.
All they knew was that dad was sick with cancer in the hospital, and they hadn't seen him for weeks. And here we see our mother, who's normally like the rock, just completely falling apart. And yeah, so I was like, I not only is this hurting me, but it's hurting the people that I love most.
And I want to add something else in there, specifically about women, because women are supposed to be the ones who hold it all together and are the strong ones because of all the conditioning. And it is okay to go through those feelings and have those moments of fear, of doubt, of not being able to hold it all together. We're fucking human beings. Like, you were dealt a huge blow. Like I said, not only the kids in your two sons in the accident, but then this diagnosis of Colin, and to have to try to hold it together. This just proves, Kelci, the incredible strength and resilience of women in general. Women are so much fucking stronger than they get credit for. And they deserve all the credit because they hold the shit together. They hold the families together. They are the matriarch. And women don't get enough credit for their strength and resilience. So I want to applaud your strength and resilience as a woman, and holding it together, but also having the self-awareness to realize, you know what, I'm human. It's okay for me to go through these feelings and experience these feelings too.
Yes. We need to, it's so important to remember we are human.
Yeah.
Those words, I am human, should be part of every single person on this earth vocabulary.
Yeah, for sure. Because we forget.
Mhm.
So many people think I'm supposed to be this strong, incredible person that
Yes.
doesn't show emotion, doesn't fall apart at times. It's okay to fall apart at times,
Yes.
and you're going to. This
Yes.
is life. Life is not fucking easy. Life is not for the faint of heart. Life is hard,
Mhm.
but there's so
Yeah.
much joy and beauty in it too.
So much. So much. Yes.
And we have to remember that, the joy and the beauty in it.
Exactly.
If grief had a voice, what do you think it would be asking us all to hear?
I think it would say, stop trying to fix me. Stop trying to rush me and just listen. Just feel and listen. Grief doesn't want to be silenced. It doesn't want to be shoved into the corner. It wants to be acknowledged. It needs us to understand that it's not here to destroy us. It's not the enemy. It's here to remind us that we love deeply and that what we lost matters. And if grief had a voice, it would be asking us to move through it, to integrate it, to process it, to bring it into our lives and give it space instead of fighting against it. And to trust that we can carry it and still live fully.
Beautifully said. How has grief changed the way that you love yourself, others, and life?
With myself, it made me softer. I used to push through. I used to hustle hard. Not that I still don't hustle, but I would like hustle harder. I kept going no matter what. But grief taught me I can't bully myself into healing. I had to learn to love myself with all of my flaws and cracks and imperfections and give myself patience, grace, and compassion, especially on days when I felt like I was failing, because there were many days that I felt like I was failing, not only Colin, myself, my kids, and with others, it's made me more intentional, hold back affection. I don't assume there will always be more time. When I'm with someone, I'm fully present. I want them to feel seen and loved by me because I know how quickly life can change. And with life itself, it's made me love it fiercely, even though it's hard at times, it's fragile, but it's taught me that every ordinary day is extraordinary. And I notice the little things like the tiny droplets of rain on flower petals, the laughter at the dinner table, the tiny moments that I used to overlook. And grief has changed the way I love because I love deeper, I love louder. I don't take love or life for granted anymore.
All of these things you're saying, I agree. And when people go through grief, I think it brings a lot of this stuff to the surface for us. It makes us realize a lot of these things. And you hear people, I'm going to spend more time with my family. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Life is short. And all these realizations come in. I think that's great that people have the realizations and wake up and realize that, yes, all of this shit is true. Yes, it is. But then they end up back in the same, they fall back into the old patterns. All of that stuff that they had the realization about goes out the window and they go back to living the same way.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to stay in those realizations and move forward with that intention. Like you said, being very intentional about
Yeah.
what you do.
Yes.
Do you have any tips or suggestions that people could take forward to maybe stay in that zone or at least stay longer in that zone?
It's all in what you make of it. And I'm only 3 years out, Brad. So maybe 10 years from now, you will be looking at me and be like, oh, she fell right back into those old patterns. But in that rebuilding process, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to build a house of cards that I'm just like surviving in. I'm going to build something that I love, because not only do I deserve that, my kids deserve that, But Colin deserves them. He deserves a legacy of his influence still making me better. Not that his death broke me and I was never the same after that. That isn't fair to him. He's so much bigger and better and deserves so much more than that. So in order to rebuild a life that I love every single corner of it, I have to be intentional with every single decision and choice that I make. So it's constantly on my mind. I think it's just it's a mindset.
And let's be honest, you're not going to love every single corner of your life every day. It's impossible. As we said, we are human and we're going to go through those experiences. We're going to have those rough days. I don't know. For me, what I try to do when I have a moment where I'm missing my grandmother or my father or whoever else, I try to think about it in the way that, would they really want me to be sitting around commiserating and being sad? No, I don't think they would. It's okay to feel the sadness. I'm not saying they would say, oh, suck it up and don't be sad. But there's a fine line where you stay in that sadness for more than you need to be. And, and on the other side of it, feeling it and going through it, letting it wash through you.
Yes, you've got to let it wash over you.
Yes, of course.
And when I say loving every part of the life I'm rebuilding, like you said, of course, there are parts that are still extremely hard and I don't love, but it's still finding the light, even in the darkness. And that's not about toxic positivity. I'm not talking about putting lipstick on a pig. It's acknowledging the darkness. It's acknowledging like the pain and the brutality of it, and also acknowledging what is still amazing and beautiful and good. So it's like where you want your focus to be. I'm going to acknowledge it. I'm not going to pretend it's not there, but I'm not going to hyper focus on that.
Yeah. Because you can end up in a very dark and deep hole.
Oh,
and
easy.
Then you're of service to nobody, least of all yourself.
Yes.
For sure. Has grief changed your relationship with, you mentioned faith and belief. Has it changed your relationship with faith, spirituality, or the bigger picture even of life and death?
Yes. It stripped away everything surface level. Like I said, my faith was deconstructed. It forced me to wrestle with the hard questions about God, about suffering, why some prayers get answered and others don't. I had seasons where my faith felt shattered, where all I could feel was anger and silence. And I had to give myself permission to be honest about that instead of pretending I was fine, and also not shame myself for having those questions and for having those doubts. But in that struggle, my faith became less about rules, less about appearances, and more about the relationship that I had with God, the relationship that it was the real, raw, sometimes messy, but very honest. And in that process, my faith actually became stronger and it became real and tangible. So yes, my faith was changed by grief, but it didn't destroy it. It refined it. It made it more unshakable because it's no longer built on everything going right. It's built on the things that I know to be true.
When you think about all the questions that we have when someone dies, because we all have many questions and they're all different for people, but do you think that I don't want to use the word deserve, but I can't think of another word to use, so I'm going to use it, deserve all the answers? Or should some questions just remain unanswered?
Questions about what specifically?
About why did like you said, why did you have to take Colin? Or why am I going through these
the why
losses?
question.
Yeah, all the why questions.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I'll tell you one thing about the why question. It's totally human to want answers.
Of course.
And to try to make sense of the senseless. That's why we ask why. We're trying to make sense of this thing that doesn't make sense. But the why questions, like why did Colin not survive while other people do? Why does a child get cancer? A child predator gets to live? Those are all valid questions, but we will never get the answer to the whys. And the whys are so disempowering because one, we won't get the answer. Two, they just suck all our energy. And so I tell my clients this because obviously those questions are normal to have, but I always tell them the why questions are disempowering. So let's ask a question that's empowering. Let's frame it to what questions? Like, what can I do? What do I have control over? What do I need? And those questions can be answered. And those questions they're actionable. They create momentum. And so that's a much healthier thing to say than to ruminate on why questions that we'll never, ever know the answer to.
If I may share something that I've learned in my journey through grief and loss, and this just hit me probably about a month and a half, 2 months ago. I was sitting outside and I was thinking about someone, and I started questioning, having the why. Why is this person dealing with this? Why is this happening? And I have a lot of spiritual people around me and in my community. And so I reflected on a lot of it. And I thought, you know what? We always hear about and talk about soul contracts. And so my way of personally dealing with it is whether they're a child, a 90-year-old, a 100-year-old, I believe we are all here with a purpose, and we're all here for our time is predestined. It's already mapped out for us how long we're going to be here. My way of dealing with it is, and thinking about it, maybe not dealing with it, but thinking about it to give myself comfort when I think about loss and these things, is that person, whoever it is, however old they are, they have fulfilled their soul contract already, and they can't do any more work here on this planet. They have other or more important or bigger work, and I'm getting goosebumps of sharing to do on the other side that they can't do from this side.
Yeah.
And so that's how I like to bring a bit of comfort. It doesn't answer the questions, but it at least brings me some comfort to know that, because it sounds insane when you think about a child getting cancer and passing at 2 years old or 3 years old or whatever it is. And like you said, a child predator living and these things. That child was here to teach something, and they can't do any more on this side. So they have to go to the other side to continue their work, and they can do more good from the other side. That's how I personally bring comfort. And that's the way I try to look at it when those moments do come in, because they do, as we said throughout this conversation, is we're human and these feelings are going to come up. It's just a matter of whether you're going to acknowledge them, accept them, let them wash through you, wash over you, process them, and then deal with them. That's the way, for me personally, how I like to look at it. So I don't know if that's of any use to anyone listening, but that's how I do it.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Now, I know you and I spoke a little bit about this before, like when we first connected, Kelci, and I want to continue this conversation because I think it's so important. And I think this is one of the most important things to discuss when it comes to grief and loss. People usually don't have a clue on what to say to those who are grieving. And that's understandable. Maybe they haven't gone through grief or experienced grief directly at that moment or whenever it is. And for lack of not knowing what to say, they end up saying the wrong thing and putting their foot in their mouths. And so I would love to hear from you. What words of wisdom or advice do you have for those people out there who don't know what to say or end up saying the wrong thing? What kind of guidance can you give them?
This is an important question because, most people don't know what to say, and either they say nothing, which is very dismissive and hurtful, or they see something to try to make it better. But in doing that, they often make it worse because, again, that's dismissive and hurtful. And so my advice is to don't try to fix it. Don't try to wrap grief up with a bow and offer explanations like everything happens for a reason, or it was their time, or when someone is in deep pain, they don't need answers. They need presence. And the most powerful thing you can say is simply, I'm so sorry. I'm here with you. I don't have the right words, but I'm not going anywhere. And then back that up with action, like actually show up, whether that's sitting with them in silence or helping with everyday things that feel impossible in grief, bringing the meal. And if you said the wrong thing before, that's okay. We all have. Cringe at the things that I have said.
Can I
to
ask you,
people.
what is one of the worst things that sorry to interrupt you, Kelci, but what is one of the worst things that you've heard that you've had to personally endure?
Oh my gosh, I've heard it all, Brad. I literally have heard it all. But I mean, I've heard, oh, you can get remarried. Like you can just get remarried. And I'm like, oh, so it's just like replacing dead batteries. Like you just get new batteries and then everything will be good. I've heard, she's no longer my friend, so she won't be listening to this podcast, but she was constantly complaining about her husband, who's a good man. And one time I was just so sick of hearing her complain about just stupid things. And don't get me wrong, I would complain about Colin here and there to my girlfriends. I would vent, but this was not that. This was like beyond ridiculous and it constantly. And I told her, like, it really hurts me when you do this. You can't say these things to me.
Yeah.
And I said, how would you feel if he died? And she straight up, Brad, looked me in the eyes and said, I wouldn't have anyone to take my daughter to soccer practice because that's all he's good for.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, excuse me. So that's like at the top of, because she was someone that was close to me that I considered a close friend. Needless to say, she's no longer a friend.
Wow.
But that was probably very close to the top of horrible things that people have said.
Oh my gosh. Okay, sorry, back to your advice. It just popped into my head, so I had to ask while it was there. But back to suggestions and ideas you can give people on how to help someone or how to be there and support someone instead of saying the wrong thing.
Yeah, it's not about having the perfect word. It's about having the courage to show up even when it's uncomfortable without trying to fix it, and also doing actionable items. When you say, I actually just did a social media post on this. And I said, if someone was drowning, would you stand back to the side and yell, hey, let me know if you need anything? No. Or would you actually do something to rescue them because they're drowning? Grievers are drowning. And when you say, let me know if you need anything, I know the intention as well. And you're just like, I don't know what they need, so I'm just going to throw that out there. But you're placing the burden back on the person that is drowning. They don't know. They don't know. They're literally just trying to catch their breath. And so if you can do actionable items, hey, can I pick the kids up after school tomorrow and take them to their activities? Do the kids have sports games on Saturdays? On Saturday, can I take them this week and take them to get lunch afterwards? You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm going to the store. Can I buy you some milk? Do you have eggs? Anything that's just like actionable, that is very helpful and also makes you feel not so alone. People actually are seeing you and care.
Yeah. Do you need me to sit with you?
Yeah.
So, like you said, sometimes just sitting in silence beside the person. Like, you don't have to
talk.
Yeah.
We don't need to talk. Like, can I come and sit with you?
Yeah, it's just having presence.
Like, I'd love to just sit with you.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you for sharing all of that, Kelci.
Yeah.
I had someone share with me a while ago that she believes that grief and joy are soulmates. I would love to hear your thoughts on that. And do you believe that to be true?
I do believe that to be true, because we really can't have one without the other. If we don't know grief, we can't know joy. And as I mentioned before, it gives us a deeper capacity to feel, to notice, and to appreciate. And it teaches us how fragile and precious life is. And because of that, joy takes on a richer, more sacred meaning when it does show up. When you've sat in the depths of grief, even the smallest spark of joy can feel like a miracle, because you, at one point, didn't know if that would ever happen again. And when joy comes, I don't want anyone to get confused and think that erases the grief. It doesn't. it sits alongside of it. The two are forever intertwined. And that's what makes both those emotions so profoundly human.
I love that. If you could rewrite the narrative society has around grief, what would you want that story to sound like?
I would want society to treat grief, like I said, not as something to fix, not as something to rush or hide or put on a timeline, but as a natural, necessary part of being human. And I would also want people to know that grief isn't weakness. It's messy, yes. It's unpredictable, but it's a reflection of love. I'd want the story to say, it's okay to fall apart, okay to cry. It's okay to even cry in public. The amount of people that I talk to that are grieving that apologize to me for their tears, it's shocking. And there's shame. Like, I'm so sorry I'm crying. I'm like, what are you talking about? I am your grief coach.
Yeah.
I'm talking to you about the worst thing that ever happened to you. Don't you dare for 1 second apologize for your tears. And also, it's okay to laugh in the middle of your sadness.
Yeah.
And above all, it's okay to rise from grief. You do not have to stay stuck. You don't have to stay in this state of, I'm never, ever going to be happy again. And my life as I knew it is completely over. And you can rise from grief, or I should say, rise with grief and carry the love you lost with you. And you're not leaving it behind.
Do you find that people, now I've heard this personally, and I'm sure you have being a grief coach, my loss isn't, I can't compare my loss to yours. You lost a husband, I lost a mother, or do you find that comparison happening a lot? And what do you
Yes.
tell people when they say things like that?
Yes. You can't compare pain. The experience you're having is the experience you're having. And your grief is valid, period. We cannot, just like we can't compare like happiness. There's always going to be someone that has more. If we get excited about having something and then we look to our left and we're like, oh, I was excited about having this, but Sally over there has something so much bigger. And now I'm suddenly not happy with this that I had. It's the same concept. You can't compare. Like, if your grief is valid, period. End of story. And so if you're hurting.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Why do you think that grief makes so many people uncomfortable, even though it's the one guarantee of being human?
Because it's raw. It's uncontrollable. It exposes vulnerabilities that we usually try to hide. It reminds others that are not grieving of their own mortality, of their own fears, of their own capacity to feel pain and the potential of that. Most people haven't faced it head on, so they don't know how to sit, and they want to offer comfort because it makes them uncomfortable. But the truth is, as I said many times in this podcast, grief cannot be fixed. And being reminded of pain, even someone else's, is hard. But it's also a profound reminder that we're alive, that we care, that we can connect on a very deep human level if we allow ourselves to feel it.
Yeah. What does it mean to you, or what do you think when you hear someone say time heals all wounds? Do you agree, or do you think time is only part of the equation? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Time is part of the equation. I absolutely hate that phrase, by the way. I hate it so much.
Yeah.
But there is a small element of time, and that's just like physiologically, our brain is rewired in grief, and that brain fog, that grief fog, widow fog, whatever you want to call it, that those times when you feel crazy, when you hear your phone ring and you think it's them, or you hear the garage door open and you think, oh, they're home. Like that stuff, there's an element of time just because it's the rewiring of your brain and that takes time. But that's about it as far as time comes, because it's not so much the time per se, it's what we do with that time that matters. We have to process, we have to reflect, we have to allow ourselves to feel so that we can then learn how to live with the loss. And time does give us perspective, but healing comes from what we do with that time,
Right.
what type of effort and action we take. So yes, time heals, but only if we show up and do the work that grief asks of us. It doesn't passively heal on its own. Time passively doesn't do that.
I think it's also important to mention that everyone's timeline is different too. Just because it's 3 years later, 5 years later, 10 years later, doesn't mean that you have to be past a certain point of grieving. Or I've heard my mom say, it's been 3 years, I should be okay now. No, who says that?
Yeah. Yeah. And also it's not linear. So it's not like you're like, oh, I'm 5 years out and I haven't done this and this for a long time. You could all of a sudden get smacked in the face and you're right back to where you felt like the day you lost them. And that can be very scary.
For sure.
But that's totally normal. It's not linear. It's messy. It's up and down and sideways, backwards. Like it's a total roller coaster and not just like a kiddie one. It's like the ones that make you want to throw up.
The loop-de-loop.
Yes.
100 mile an hour, 200 mile an hour roller coaster rides.
Yes. The one that at my age, you're like, oh, I can't do those anymore.
You looked at it, like,
old.
no,
Thanks. I'm getting old.
Do you believe that healing means returning to who you were before or becoming someone entirely new?
We don't return exactly to who we were before because you can't go through devastating loss and experience grief in that way without being changed by it. I already listed all the ways that we can learn and be our teacher. But healing really is about integrating loss and learning from it and becoming a version of ourselves that carries both the pain and the growth. And I hate the word new normal, but in this case, I won't have another way to say it. It's a new normal that's shaped by love, loss, and resilience.
So if grief is love with nowhere to go, how do we begin to channel that love back into our lives?
Grief is the echo. It's an echo of love. And so we can channel it by intentionally choosing ways to express that love. And that can be with connecting with others. That can be through acts of kindness, creative expression, doing things that honor the person we lost. And it's really, Brad, it comes down to finding outlets that allow the love to flow, even when the person we lost isn't physically present.
Beautifully said. Now, you've used the term rise with grief multiple times throughout the interview, and rise with grief is your creation. At what point did you realize your pain could become purpose for others and for yourself and lead you to create Rise with Grief?
It was a gradual shift. It wasn't like an instant realization, but after experiencing profound trauma and grief myself, I began to notice how healing, insight, and growth could come from walking through that experience intentionally. And what I once didn't know was possible, I realized was actually possible. And I wanted to create a space where others could rise with their grief, not be defined or broken by it, but supported in transforming their pain into understanding and in resilience and eventually purpose.
Is RISE an acronym for anything, or is just Rise with Grief? I'm curious.
You know that when I first started it, RISE was an acronym.
Okay.
And can't even tell you what it was. It definitely wouldn't stick. I think the E was empowering. If I sat here and thought about it, I could probably bring it up, but it definitely didn't stick. I think just rise in and of itself is a standalone word that doesn't need acronyms.
Yeah. Very
To be
true.
completely honest.
Yes,
It
very
was
true.
cluttered. It just made it cluttered.
Yeah. And so how long has Rise with Grief been in existence now? When did you start it?
I
Officially?
started it exactly a year after my
Okay.
husband died. I was just like in it myself.
Yeah.
But that just goes to show you that you don't have to have it all figured out.
There you
Like
go.
you learn in the doing. And I was just like, I have this call. I felt very strongly that I was called to do it. I was confident that I had created a framework that had worked for me.
Yeah.
That was just like blew me away that no one else was teaching it, because it was literally like game-changing magic when I figured it out. And I was just thought, there's people that are drowning and they're struggling, and I have this life raft. So I'm just going to go out and start throwing them out to people. And it just really blossomed and grew from there.
What is it you think that sets you apart from other grief counselors? Because I know you and I have spoken about grief counseling and some of your experiences. But what is it that sets you and the work that you do with and as Rise with Grief from other?
Well, first of all, I get it. Like, I understand. And my clients feel very seen, because I completely, and when I say completely, obviously, like, everybody's grief is unique. Everybody's experience is individual, but there's a lot of commonality. And I can recognize, I'm very intuitive, and I can recognize their pain and their issues and their problems without them even before they even tell me.
Right.
And because I've been there. And also, this is not just like a sit and talk and vent and say, yes, that's normal. This is going to happen. No, I'm like, take my freaking hand and I'm going to show you exactly the steps you need to take so that you know how to do this. And also, I don't become a crutch. I teach them to do it on their own, because this is a lifelong journey. It's not a 1 year and you're done. It's your grief is your companion for life.
Yeah.
And so I want you to be able to, when the hard moments come, you can go around in your toolbox of all the things I've given you, and you can say, okay, I can use this one for that. I know how to do this. It's hard, yes. But guess what? Can do hard things, and I know how to do it.
Love it. What have you seen are a couple of the most common ways that people try to bypass grief? And what happens when they just bypass it?
Keeping busy, numbing emotions with drugs, alcohol, all the things, shopping. There's so many things you can numb with. Keeping busy with anything, really, to just avoiding triggers, which that can be okay depending on what it is. So that I say lightly. Well, we do those things and it can feel protective in the long term. Like, we can temporarily numb our emotions. We can temporarily distract ourselves by keeping busy. But what we run from chases us. The grief's not going to go away. And it actually creates long-term suffering, like anxiety, guilt, emotional exhaustion, because the grief is not being processed. And so the work of grief is unavoidable. And the quickest way through it is to walk right into the freaking storm and just face it head on.
Yeah.
That is, the sooner you do that, the sooner the real healing begins. But it's scary.
Oh, yeah.
So I get it. Like, a lot of people, they run from it because that's our instinct. Our instinct is not to run towards pain, it's to run away. And so it's really scary. And so if anybody's listening to this and they're doing that, I'm not shaming you. I don't want you to beat yourself up. Like, it totally makes sense. But just know that it's actually prolonging your suffering.
Thank you for sharing that. What would you say is one of, if not the biggest lie that society is telling us about grief?
Oh, it tells us that we should move on or get over it and within a certain amount of time. Like how you said your mom from 3 years, they should be over it. That's society telling her that. And maybe even if she doesn't have someone telling her that, that's the message that we're told. And that there's stages, and then we go through the 5 stages and we reach acceptance, and all of a sudden we're over it and we're good. And that's just not true at all. First of all, it doesn't have a schedule. Second of all, it's not something we get over. It's something we integrate. And also, there's not a right way per se to grieve. There are things you can do that definitely would be like a wrong because it's going to create more pain and suffering, but there's no one right way. Like it's personal for everybody. And it's unpredictable and it's ongoing.
Yeah.
And so society just is, I've learned, and I learned very quickly in my grief journey, that society is completely got grief wrong, and it's absolutely grief illiterate.
There's a lot. Yeah, I would agree. There's a lot of people that are grief illiterate too. And that's why your work is so important, Kelci. I just love that you're turning your pain into purpose and helping others go through their grief and educate them. That is the biggest piece I think that's missing, is the education piece around
Yes.
that's twofold, I think, or two sides of that. How to grieve personally, and also how to deal with other people's grief, how to be of a support system for others who are grieving. Those are the two biggest pieces.
Yes. Yeah. And there's, like we talked earlier, it's uncomfortable. Grief is taboo. This kind of vulnerability is not widely accepted. And I say things that really make some people, it rubs them the wrong way. And trust me, they let me know about it. And then I just look at them and I'm like, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the person over there that is drowning. Like, I'm not talking to you.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, in the beginning, it was hard to get hate, and people misunderstand my message and think that I'm trying to profit somehow off of my husband's pain. I've been told many disgusting, horrible things. And that was hard in the beginning. Now it's like water off a duck. It just rolls off of me. And I'm just like, excuse me, like you're talking to me, but I wasn't talking to you. Thank you.
But it's conversations like this that help, for lack of a better term, normalize grief, because it's taboo. People don't talk about it because it's uncomfortable to talk about. We need to normalize the conversation. We need to talk about it more, because with anything, if you talk about it enough, if you start the conversations, that is the catalyst for change in society, in the world. And so through conversations like this is how we start to move the needle and change
and
things.
people don't realize how dangerous it is to not talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
It's very dangerous. People are dying because we are not talking about it.
Yeah. Do you have a couple of suggestions or tools that you have in your tool belt that you use and recommend to your clients on a regular basis for people listening who might be going through their own grief struggles that can implement them right now?
Yeah, there's so much, and there's so much that goes into it. But one simple tool is just naming what you're feeling out loud. Okay. I am heartbroken. I feel lost right now. That gives your grief a voice, and it reminds you it's okay to feel whatever is coming up, and that it's valid, and you're acknowledging it. And when you do that, the next step is finding a safe container for your grief. And this could be a journal. It could be a voice memo to yourself. It could be talking to someone that is trusted, but it's about letting the feelings out without judgment. And a third thing is to really incorporate small grounding practices. There's a lot of fear in grief, and a lot of anxiety, and that fear and anxiety almost always lives in the future. So if we can get grounded in the present moment, also that fear and anxiety makes our nervous system all the alarms go off and react as if we are in danger when obviously we're not. We're in pain, but we're not physically in danger.
Yeah.
And so if we can ground ourselves in the present moment, things like noticing your breath or engaging in your five senses, feeling your feet on the floor, these tiny moments can help your nervous system feel supported and realize, oh, I'm actually safe right now when everything feels so out of control. So those are just some quick little things that people can use. Obviously, there's a lot and there's a lot more depth to them than I can go to in the podcast. Sure. But those are some 3 quick, easy things that can actually be really effective.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing those, Kelci. Now, as mentioned, you are an author. Can you tell us about the book, the title, when it was released, the inspiration, all of it? Tell us all the things about the book.
Yeah. So my book is called A Million Miracles and the One That Never Came. And I released it last year, and it was inspired to write it because I wanted to give, number one, my husband, before he died, told me I was going to write a book. And I was like, no, I'm not. And he kept telling me the whole time, he was like, you're going to write a book about this and it's going to help so many people. And I was like, I don't know where this is coming from, because not only do I not have a desire to write a book, but I'm not a writer and this is just not going to happen.
Colin, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. But after he died, about a week after he died, I got a very clear impression what the title of the book was going to be. And I wasn't thinking about the book at all because that was not my idea. It was his.
Yeah.
But it was so overwhelmingly, it was a very spiritual experience. And I actually talk about it in the book. But at that moment, I knew that I was indeed supposed to write this book. And so I wanted to give a voice to the unspoken experience of grief and show that people that not only are they not alone in that experience, because you feel so alone, like you're the only person in the world that understands. They're not alone, but also that healing is possible. And writing that book was deeply personal and extremely raw. But it was also cathartic in a way. Sharing it with the world was so scary. I was so scared because it was my story. And I was being so raw and vulnerable. And I was just opening myself up to the world to be like, take your best shot of criticism. But it's been so rewarding. The response has been completely overly good in a good way. People just telling me how the book has helped them and how they just felt so much less alone and so seen. And it just, if I could help one person, which I've helped many, it would be worth it to me. And so go check out my book. Go on Amazon or my website.
Yeah, we'll put the link in the show notes when we release your episode. How long did it take you to write the book?
Like I said, it was about a week after Colin died, really heard the call. And I didn't start right away, but I thought about it. So I didn't actually sit down and start writing it, but I thought about what I wanted, what I was going to do, what the book would be about and everything. Once I actually sat down and started writing it to the point of publication was probably about a year.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
What does freedom mean to you on the deepest level beyond money, status, recognition, all of those things?
This is such a good question. Freedom to me means the ability to live authentically.
Okay.
And to make choices that align with my values and to move through my life with emotional and spiritual autonomy.
Love it.
Not letting fear or guilt or the need for external validation hold me back.
That's powerful. Okay, we're going to jump into a little rapid fire section. So the next grouping will just be 1, 2, 3 word answer type thing. Okay. Oh, actually, sorry. No, not yet. Let me start over again. I missed a couple of questions here. I'll have to cut that out.
Okay.
How do you define success, Kelci?
It's living a true life to myself, making a positive impact on others, connecting deeply with others, and just helping and spreading light where I can.
What does empowerment mean to you?
Reclaiming your agency and recognizing your strength and focusing on the things that you have control over, and also acting from a place of confidence rather than a place of fear.
Beautiful. Okay, we're going to jump into a little rapid fire section. So the next
Okay.
finger questions just be 1, 2, 3-word answer.
Okay.
What is your favorite place on earth?
The ocean.
What is your secret or hidden talent?
Oh gosh. Secret or hidden talent? Gosh, this one, I'm like, you can tell where I'm like, oh, I can play the piano.
Okay. If you could teach the world one thing, what would it be?
How to hold love and loss together.
What is your guilty pleasure?
Watching trashy reality TV while eating chocolate.
What is the one word that sums up your mindset?
Resilient.
Name one book that changed your life.
Man's Search for Meaning.
What's one word that defines the woman you're becoming?
Authentic.
That concludes our rapid fire section. Now back to our regularly scheduled program. I created a bonus question that I did not send you ahead of time. What is one habit, ritual, or practice that has been a game changer for your personal growth?
Pouring into myself and not being guilty about it. As a mother, I feel we're conditioned to put everybody else first, especially our children. And when I say putting myself first, I don't do that like at the expense of my children,
Right,
of course.
course.
But I prioritize myself and I set boundaries to make sure that I do that, because when I fill my cup, then I have more to pour into theirs.
For sure. If you were to introduce yourself to me without mentioning your occupation, where you're from, your religious background, your nationality, where you grew up, all the superficial markers that we use on a day-to-day basis, how would you introduce yourself to me?
Oh, I would say I'm a sassy bitch with a lot of love to share.
Nice to meet you. If you could step into my shoes, what is one question that you would ask yourself that I didn't ask you?
Oh my goodness. I don't know. You had so many good questions. I don't even know. I feel like you covered everything.
Thank you. I received that. If you had the opportunity to sit down and have a 1-hour conversation with one woman, any woman in the world, who would it be and why?
Could they be dead? Anne Frank.
Okay. And why Anne Frank?
She obviously went through horrible and experienced awful things and horrible pain. And she just rose to the top. She's incredible. And I would just love to talk to her about her experience and how she did that.
Okay. If you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
Don't sweat the small stuff.
That's an important one for sure. Lastly, Kelci, if you were to deliver your last 30-second speech to the world, your corner of the world, your tribe, your people, what would that last 30 seconds sound like? What words of wisdom would you impart?
I would say the most important thing is the legacy that you leave, like your fingerprints that you leave on this earth. And so be intentional with that and make it great. And also, I think I would just actually end it there. I was trying to get to 30 seconds. That was not 30 seconds.
That's okay. That's all right. The intent was there. It's all good. Kelci, thank you so much for taking and making the time to be here with me today. It has been an absolute pleasure having the opportunity to sit down and share in your story, your journey, and the beautiful light you're now putting out into the world through the work you do. It is an honor. I am grateful to have you as a member of the Empowerography community and to call you a friend. Thank you for being here today. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Brad. It was great.
Once again, my name is Brad Walsh, host of your Empowerography podcast. Today, my guest has been Kelci Jager. She is a certified life coach, a grief and loss coach, a registered nurse, an author, and the founder of Rise with Grief. Thank you so much, Kelci. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for listening to this podcast. If you haven't yet, please be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share with all your friends. You can find me at visuphoria.ca, follow me on Instagram at Empowerography Podcast, and on Facebook at Empowerography. Please join me next time for another inspirational story from yet another amazing woman.